Emily Carter, at 26, had woven a life in Seattle that felt both vibrant and steady, a delicate balance of creativity and calm. Her small, sunlit apartment overlooked a bustling street lined with towering evergreens, the windowsill crowded with succulents and a few stray paintbrushes. Each morning began with the same ritual, lacing up her running shoes to trace the familiar paths along the waterfront, the crisp air filling her lungs and clearing her mind. These jogs grounded her, a quiet promise to herself that no matter how chaotic the world became, she could always find peace in the rhythm of her steps. Her days were spent at a creative agency nestled in one of Seattle's refurbished brick buildings, where the walls were lined with modern art, and the hum of collaboration filled the air. As a graphic designer, Emily thrived in the interplay of colors and concepts, crafting visual stories that brought brands to life. Her workspace was meticulously organized, sketchbooks stacked neatly, a laptop adorned with stickers from her favorite artists, and a mug of chamomile tea always within reach. The agency's atmosphere suited Emily's personality perfectly, dynamic enough to inspire, yet structured enough to provide security. Evenings found her in a different mode entirely. She would return home, sometimes stopping by a local cafe to pick up a chai latte, then settle into her favorite corner of the apartment. Here, surrounded by canvases and jars of acrylic paint, Emily allowed her mind to wander. Painting was her refuge, a place to express emotions that words often failed to capture. Some nights she'd swap her brushes for a journal, the pages filled with reflections, sketches, and fragments of poetry. This creative solitude was a vital part of her routine, a gentle closure to the day's demands. Her social life, though not extravagant, was rich with meaningful connections. A close-knit circle of friends gathered regularly, sharing dinners, laughter, and support. They met for weekend hikes in the nearby Cascades, or gathered for art classes that Emily insisted on attending whenever possible. These classes weren't just about honing skills, they were moments of community, places where Emily could both teach and learn, connect and create. In these spaces she felt understood and valued, a contrast to the occasional isolation that her introspective nature sometimes brought. Yoga sessions punctuated her week, offering a physical and spiritual reset. The studio, bathed in soft light and the scent of sandalwood, became a sanctuary where Emily could stretch both body and mind. She relished the quiet strength yoga fostered, the way each pose demanded presence and patience. These practices fed into her overall sense of well-being, reinforcing a mindset of optimism and balance. Love, for Emily, was a concept she approached with hopeful curiosity rather than urgency. She believed in the possibility of deep connection, but never rushed into relationships, preferring instead to nurture friendships and understand herself first. Past experiences had taught her the importance of patience and self-respect, lessons she carried quietly but firmly. Her heart was open, yes, but guarded by thoughtful boundaries, a shield woven from both hope and caution. It was during one of her routine mornings at the agency that the steady cadence of Emily's life encountered an unexpected note. Jake Thornton arrived, a new client brought in by the agency to spearhead a branding project for his burgeoning tech startup. From the moment he stepped into the conference room, his presence was magnetic, tall, with a casual confidence that seemed to fill the space effortlessly. His smile was easy, accompanied by a spark in his eyes that hinted at both intelligence and a restless energy. Jake's first words were warm and engaging, peppered with humor and an easy charm that made Emily's usual reserve soften ever so slightly. He spoke about his vision for the brand with passion, painting vivid pictures of innovation and connection. Emily found herself drawn to his enthusiasm, the way he seemed to believe in the power of ideas to change the world. There was an undeniable spark in the air during their initial meetings, a sense that this collaboration might be something more than just a professional engagement. Assigned as the lead designer for Jake's project, Emily's responsibilities expanded to include frequent meetings, brainstorming sessions, and late evenings poring over drafts and mock-ups. The work was demanding but exhilarating, pushing her creativity in new directions. With each presentation, Jake's feedback was thoughtful and encouraging, his compliments sincere and specific. He listened attentively, valued her input, and treated the creative process as a partnership rather than a transaction. Yet, beyond the professional sphere, Emily sensed a subtle shift within herself. She noticed the way her heart quickened when Jake's gaze lingered a little longer, or how her thoughts drifted toward him during quiet moments. There was an undercurrent of something unspoken, a tension between what was expected and what might be possible. Despite her efforts to maintain focus, she found herself anticipating their meetings with a mix of excitement and apprehension. The contrast between Jake's spontaneous energy and Emily's measured approach created a dynamic that was both challenging and alluring. He introduced ideas at a rapid pace, sometimes veering off script with stories or questions that revealed glimpses of his personal life. Emily, usually reserved, responded with curiosity, her walls lowering in subtle increments. Their conversations grew more personal, touching on dreams, fears, and the small details that make people real to one another. Even as she navigated this new terrain, Emily remained anchored by her routines. Morning jogs continued without fail, offering clarity amid the growing complexity of her emotions. Paintbrushes still danced across canvases in the quiet evenings, each stroke a meditation on the shifting landscape of her heart. Yoga sessions provided moments of peace, reminding her to breathe deeply and stay present. Her friends noticed the change too. How her smile seemed a bit brighter, her laughter more spontaneous. They teased her gently about the new energy she carried, sensing the stirrings of possibility. Yet Emily kept her feelings guarded, aware of the delicate balance between hope and caution. She was learning to listen to her heart without losing sight of the boundaries that protected her. As the days unfolded, Emily's life became a tapestry of creativity, connection, and quiet anticipation. The steady rhythm she had cultivated provided a foundation, but the arrival of Jake Thornton introduced a new melody, unpredictable, vibrant, and full of promise. With each passing moment, Emily found herself opening to the possibility that this project, and the man behind it, might reshape her understanding of love and trust in ways she had yet to imagine. Jake Thornton entered Emily's world like a sudden gust of wind, unexpected, stirring, and impossible to ignore. He carried with him an energy that seemed to ripple through every room he entered, effortlessly drawing attention without demanding it. His presence was magnetic. Tall and lean with a casual confidence that never felt forced, he had an easy charm that complemented his sharp intellect. From the moment their paths crossed, Emily found herself caught in the orbit of his spontaneity and warmth. Jake was the kind of person who spoke with conviction, his words imbued with a sense of possibility that was hard to resist. In meetings, his enthusiasm was contagious, his voice rising and falling with passion as he outlined his vision for his startup, a platform designed to connect communities through shared experiences. He painted vivid pictures of a future where technology fostered genuine human connection, and Emily, ever the optimist, was captivated by the sincerity behind his dream. It wasn't just business talk. It felt personal, urgent, and real. Assigned to lead the branding project, Emily's days quickly filled with frequent interactions with Jake. The agency's conference room became their creative playground, where ideas bounced back and forth in a lively exchange. Jake's input was both insightful and provocative, challenging Emily to push beyond her usual boundaries. He had a way of seeing things differently, encouraging boldness and experimentation. Their collaboration sparked a creative synergy that energized Emily in ways she hadn't anticipated. Beyond their professional rapport, Jake's presence seeped into the quieter moments of Emily's life. His texts were often sprinkled with humor and unexpected questions, blurring the lines between work and something more personal. He asked about her favorite music, her weekend plans, even her thoughts on art and life. Emily found herself responding eagerly, the conversation flowing naturally, as if they were old friends rediscovering an easy connection. The walls she usually kept firmly in place seemed to soften, brick by brick. Jake's magnetic presence was accompanied by a spontaneous energy that both excited and unsettled Emily. He was impulsive, often changing plans on a whim or suggesting last-minute meetups that broke her carefully constructed routines. There was a thrill in his unpredictability, a spark that made her heart race, but also a flicker of apprehension. Emily, who thrived on order and clarity, found herself navigating new emotional terrain, drawn in by the promise of deep affection yet wary of the unknown. Despite the intensity of their interactions, Jake's words held the promise of something genuine. He spoke openly about his past, sharing stories that revealed vulnerability beneath his confident exterior. He expressed admiration for Emily's talent and spirit, complimenting her in ways that felt sincere and heartfelt. His declarations of affection were frequent and poetic, painting images of shared adventures and futures intertwined. Emily, who had long guarded her heart, felt a magnetic pull toward these promises, hopeful that they might be true. The frequency of their meetings increased, blending professional collaboration with moments that felt distinctly personal. Lunches extended beyond quick breaks, turning into long conversations over shared plates. After-hours brainstorming sessions sometimes morphed into casual strolls through nearby parks, laughter echoing under the canopy of trees. Emily noticed how Jake's gaze held a warmth that went beyond business, a softness that made her feel seen and valued. These moments stirred feelings she had only cautiously entertained before. Yet, beneath the surface of this growing connection, Emily remained attuned to the subtle complexities of Jake's behavior. There were times when his enthusiasm dimmed unexpectedly, replaced by a distracted air or vague excuses. His spontaneous nature, while exhilarating, sometimes veered into inconsistency, leaving Emily wondering about the depth of his commitment. Still, she clung to the hope that his words and actions would eventually align, trusting in the potential she sensed beneath the surface. The duality of Jake's presence, the magnetic charm and the occasional unpredictability, created an emotional tension that Emily wrestled with quietly. She found herself oscillating between exhilaration and caution, her heart yearning for closeness while her mind sought clarity. The boundaries she had once maintained began to blur, challenged by the intensity of their interactions and the warmth of his attention. It was a delicate dance, one that left her both exhilarated and vulnerable. In the midst of this emotional whirlwind, Emily's creative work flourished. Inspired by Jake's vision and their dynamic collaboration, she produced designs that felt bold and alive, each piece a testament to the evolving connection between them. The project became more than a professional assignment. It was a canvas on which their growing bond was subtly painted. Emily's colleagues noticed her renewed energy, attributing it to the exciting nature of the work, unaware of the deeper undercurrents shaping her days. As their partnership deepened, Jake's gestures grew more thoughtful and personal. He remembered small details she mentioned, a favorite cafe, a book she wanted to read, a song that moved her, and incorporated them into their conversations and plans. One afternoon he surprised her with tickets to an art exhibit, a gesture that made Emily's heart flutter with both delight and uncertainty. It was these moments of unexpected kindness that tightened the emotional thread between them, weaving a connection that felt increasingly intimate. Despite the allure of Jake's charm and the promise his presence held, Emily remained cautious. She was aware of the risks in allowing herself to become too attached too quickly, mindful of the lessons her past had taught her. The hope for love was tempered by a desire to protect her heart, to ensure that the affection she felt was met with genuine respect and consistency. This internal dialogue accompanied her through each encounter, a quiet voice urging patience and discernment. Within the evolving landscape of their relationship, Emily found herself at a crossroads of emotion and reason. Jake's magnetic presence had disrupted the steady rhythm of her life, introducing excitement and possibility, but also uncertainty. The lines between professional collaboration and personal connection blurred, creating a complex tapestry of feelings she was only beginning to understand. Each meeting, each conversation, added a new layer to their dynamic, deepening the emotional stakes without clear resolution. As days turned into weeks, Emily's hope blossomed alongside the project they were building together. She held on to the belief that Jake's words of affection were sincere, that the warmth he showed was the foundation of something real. Yet beneath this hope, a quiet awareness stirred, a sense that the story unfolding might be more complicated than it appeared. For now, though, Emily allowed herself to be drawn in by the promise of connection, embracing the magnetic pull of Jake Thornton's presence in her life. As the weeks slipped by, the initial spark that had ignited between Emily and Jake began to waver beneath the weight of unspoken doubts and inconsistencies. The magnetic pull that had drawn Emily in with such intensity now flickered uncertainly, casting shadows over the bright promise she had once held close. Their collaboration continued, but subtle cracks began to appear in the seamless connection that had defined their early days. Emily noticed it first in the small things: missed calls that went unanswered, messages left hanging in the silent void. Jake's once frequent texts, peppered with humor and thoughtful questions, became sparse and delayed. The warmth in his tone seemed to cool, replaced by a vague distance that left Emily grasping for explanations. She found herself rereading conversations, searching for clues or signs that might reveal the cause of this shift. Yet, each attempt only deepened her confusion. Promises made in moments of enthusiasm were broken with casual apologies, or excuses that felt rehearsed. Jake would commit to meetings or deadlines with a fervor that stirred Emily's hope, only to vanish when the time arrived. The project, once a shared adventure, began to feel like a landscape of missed opportunities and unfulfilled expectations. Emily's heart ached with each disappointment, the hurt compounded by the gulf growing between his words and actions. Within this emotional turbulence, Emily wrestled with a growing sense of vulnerability. She questioned her own perceptions, wondering if she was reading too much into Jake's behavior, or if her hope was blinding her to reality. The contrast between the man who had captivated her with promises of affection and the one who now seemed elusive was stark and painful. Moments of tenderness were overshadowed by an emotional coldness that left her feeling isolated. Despite their physical proximity, their interactions became a delicate dance of approach and retreat. When Jake was present, he could be attentive and engaging, but these moments were often fleeting, replaced by stretches of silence or withdrawal. Emily found herself waiting, her heart poised on the edge of expectation, only to be met with disappointment. The emotional roller coaster left her both yearning and guarded, caught between the desire to believe and the need to protect herself. A particularly painful confrontation crystallized the growing divide. One evening, after a meeting that had stretched late into the night, Emily gathered the courage to voice her concerns. They sat across from each other in a dimly lit cafe, the hum of quiet conversations around them contrasting with the tension at their table. Emily's voice trembled as she asked for clarity, seeking to understand the reasons behind Jake's distance and broken promises. Jake's response was hesitant, a mixture of regret and defensiveness. He admitted his struggles with commitment, an admission that shattered the fragile trust Emily had tried to maintain. The warmth and affection he had once expressed seemed to recede, replaced by an emotional barrier that neither knew how to breach. The conversation ended with unresolved questions lingering in the air, a silent acknowledgement that the bond they had nurtured was fraying. In the days that followed, the emotional dissonance deepened. Emily found herself retreating inward, grappling with feelings of hurt, confusion, and self-doubt. She replayed their interactions endlessly in her mind, searching for answers and second-guessing her own worth. The pain of unreciprocated affection gnawed at her, a persistent ache that shadowed her every thought. Yet amidst the turmoil, a fragile thread of hope remained, refusing to be extinguished. Small moments of affection still surfaced, Jake's brief smiles, a lingering touch during a meeting, but these were quickly overshadowed by his unpredictability. Emily clung to these fragments, trying to piece together a coherent narrative from the scattered emotions. The disparity between his declarations of love and his inconsistent behavior left her torn, a battleground of hope and despair. She questioned whether her heart was a refuge or a trap. Emily's creative work, once a source of joy and expression, became tinged with melancholy. The designs she produced reflected the complexity of her emotions, bold strokes intertwined with hesitant lines, colors vibrant yet muted. Her colleagues noticed the subtle change, offering quiet support without prying. Painting and journaling became her sanctuary, places where she could pour out the confusion and pain that words failed to capture. Her friends, sensing her inner turmoil, reached out with gentle encouragement. They reminded her of her strength and worth, urging her to hold on to self-respect amidst the uncertainty. Therapy sessions provided a safe space to explore her feelings, helping her untangle the threads of hope, love, and disappointment. Through these conversations, Emily began to understand the importance of aligning actions with words, a lesson that had been painfully elusive. Despite the growing chasm, Emily struggled to let go completely. The emotional attachment she felt to Jake was deep, rooted not only in his promises, but in the glimpses of kindness and connection they had shared. She found herself clinging to the possibility of change, hoping that the man who had once inspired her could reconcile his contradictions. This internal conflict weighed heavily, a silent battle between heart and reason. In quiet moments, Emily reflected on the patterns emerging in their relationship. She recognized the emotional discrepancies, the warmth followed by coldness, the declarations met with distance, and the toll they took on her well-being. The realization that love required more than words, that it demanded consistency and presence, began to crystallize. Yet the path forward remained uncertain, fraught with the risk of further hurt. The juxtaposition of affection and neglect left Emily feeling unmoored. She yearned for the security of authentic connection, but was ensnared in the unpredictability of Jake's behavior. The emotional dissonance challenged her sense of self, prompting questions about her own worthiness and the nature of love. Each day became a negotiation between hope and caution, a fragile balancing act that tested her resilience. As the project moved toward completion, the unresolved tension between them lingered. Emily found herself standing at a crossroads, the promise of love tempered by the reality of inconsistency. The journey that had begun with excitement and possibility now demanded difficult choices and painful reckonings. In this crucible of emotion, Emily confronted the complexities of attachment and the necessity of self-preservation. Though the path was uncertain and the wounds fresh, Emily's experience was shaping her understanding of what love could and should be. The discrepancies between Jake's words and actions illuminated the importance of trust and integrity in relationships. As she navigated this emotional terrain, Emily began to gather the strength to face the truth beneath the promises, the truth that would guide her toward healing and growth. In the weeks that followed the painful confrontation with Jake, Emily found herself retreating into the quiet corners of her life, seeking refuge from the storm of emotions that churned within. The vibrant energy that had once fueled her work and creativity dimmed, replaced by a heavy fog of betrayal and loneliness. Each day seemed to stretch endlessly, marked by the ache of unmet expectations and the echo of broken promises. Her mornings, once filled with the steady rhythm of jogging along the waterfront, became slower, more contemplative. The crisp air that had once invigorated her now felt sharp and biting, a reminder of the vulnerability she carried. Yet, even in these moments of solitude, Emily clung to the routines that offered stability, a lifeline tethering her to the person she was beneath the pain. Amid this internal turbulence, Emily turned inward, seeking to understand the tangled emotions that overwhelmed her. She poured herself into her art, using paintbrushes and colors to give form to the confusion and sorrow she struggled to articulate. Her canvases were raw and expressive, a visual diary of heartbreak and hope intertwined. Painting became both a catharsis and a sanctuary, a space where she could confront her feelings without judgment. Journaling accompanied her creative process, the pages of her notebook filling with fragmented thoughts, questions, and reflections. She wrote about the moments of joy and disappointment with Jake, about the clash between her hope and the reality she faced. These written words acted as a mirror, helping Emily trace the contours of her pain and gradually separate it from her sense of self. Through this practice, she began to reclaim her voice, once muffled by confusion and hurt. Recognizing the need for support beyond her solitary efforts, Emily reached out to her close friends. They gathered around her with quiet patience and unwavering care, offering listening ears and gentle encouragement. Their presence reminded her that she was not alone in this journey, that the threads of connection she had woven over time were strong enough to hold her. Conversations over warm cups of tea and shared meals became moments of healing, spaces where vulnerability was met with compassion. Therapy became another pillar in Emily's path toward recovery. In the safe, confidential environment of her sessions, she confronted the deeper wounds that Jake's actions had stirred. Guided by her therapist's insight, Emily explored patterns from her past that had shaped her understanding of love and trust. The process was challenging, uncovering layers of pain and self-doubt, but it also offered clarity and empowerment. She learned to recognize her worth independent of others' validation, and to set boundaries that honored her emotional health. A turning point arrived when Emily attended a healing workshop, a gathering designed to foster self-love and forgiveness. Surrounded by strangers who shared their own stories of heartache and resilience, Emily found a profound sense of solidarity. The exercises, centered around mindfulness, affirmations, and guided reflection, encouraged her to confront her pain without shame and to embrace the possibility of renewal. In this communal space, Emily felt her defenses soften, allowing compassion for herself to grow. Through the workshop, Emily confronted the lingering grip of disappointment and the fear of vulnerability. She acknowledged the ways she had clung to hope as a means of protecting herself from the harshness of loss. By embracing self-forgiveness, She began to release the guilt and self-blame that had shadowed her recovery. This shift was subtle but powerful, marking the first steps toward healing that extended beyond mere survival. Rebuilding her sense of identity became a central focus during this period. Emily rediscovered passions that had been sidelined, rekindled friendships that nourished her spirit, and invested time in activities that brought genuine joy. She returned to yoga with renewed dedication, finding in the practice a metaphor for balance and resilience. Each breath, each pose became a reminder that healing was a process of steady growth, not a destination reached overnight. As Emily navigated this transformative journey, she developed a clearer understanding of the distinction between love and pain. She recognized that true connection required consistency and respect, that affection alone could not sustain a relationship without these foundations. This insight empowered her to release the hold that Jake's inconsistent behavior had on her, allowing space for healthier expectations and boundaries. Amid the ebb and flow of recovery, Emily's creative work began to reflect her evolving perspective. Her designs and paintings took on new depth and authenticity, infused with the lessons learned from her emotional journey. The colors became richer, the lines more confident, mirroring the resilience growing within her. Her colleagues noticed the shift, commenting on the renewed passion and clarity that infused her projects. Emily's friends continued to be a source of strength, celebrating her progress and reminding her of the value she brought to their lives. Their unwavering support reinforced the truth that healing was not a solitary endeavor, but a shared experience. Through their encouragement, Emily found the courage to envision a future where love was not a source of pain, but a wellspring of mutual respect and understanding. In quiet moments, Emily reflected on how far she had come since the days of confusion and heartbreak. The journey had been marked by setbacks and struggles, but also by profound growth and self-discovery. She had learned to hold space for her emotions without being overwhelmed by them, to trust herself in the face of uncertainty. This emerging strength became the foundation upon which she would build her future relationships. Though the wounds were still tender, Emily approached each day with a renewed sense of hope and determination. She embraced the knowledge that healing was ongoing, a path that required patience and compassion. The experience had taught her that love, when rooted in authenticity and respect, could be a source of empowerment rather than vulnerability. As the seasons shifted outside her window, Emily found peace in the rhythm of her recovery. The ache of betrayal had softened into a quiet reminder of her resilience. The pain transformed into wisdom. She held on to the belief that the lessons learned would guide her toward connections that honored her worth and nurtured her soul. In this chapter of her life, Emily was not defined by the heartbreak she endured, but by the courage she showed in facing it. She continued to nurture her passions, cherish her friendships, and cultivate a deep, abiding love for herself. This journey through pain had opened the door to a future where hope and authenticity could flourish side by side. Emily emerged from the shadow of heartbreak with a clarity that felt both liberating and profound. The painful lessons etched into her heart had transformed into guiding principles, reshaping her understanding of love and the boundaries that sustain it. She moved forward with a new sense of purpose, committed to nurturing relationships grounded in authenticity and respect. The clarity she found was anchored in a deep recognition. Love was more than words or fleeting moments of passion. It required alignment between intention and action. Emily had learned to listen not only to promises but to the consistent behaviors that revealed true commitment. This insight became the foundation upon which she built her renewed approach to relationships, one that honored both her desires and her worth. With this perspective, Emily cultivated boundaries that felt empowering rather than restrictive. She recognized that protecting her emotional well-being was an act of self-respect, a necessary step toward fostering connections that were healthy and reciprocal. These boundaries were not walls but carefully drawn lines that invited trust and honesty, allowing love to flourish without sacrificing her integrity. A heartfelt conversation with her closest friend, Mia, crystallized Emily's growth. One evening, as they sat on Emily's balcony overlooking the city lights, Mia remarked on the strength and grace Emily now carried. "You've changed," Mia said softly. "Not because you were broken, but because you chose to heal on your own terms." Emily smiled, feeling the truth in her words. The journey had been arduous, but it had also been a testament to her resilience and self-awareness. This newfound resilience extended beyond her personal life into her creative work. Emily's designs reflected the wisdom gleaned from her experiences, bold yet nuanced, expressive yet grounded. She approached each project with a confidence that came from knowing her value, unshaken by external validation. The agency recognized this evolution, entrusting her with leadership roles that challenged and inspired her in equal measure. Emily's social circle remained a vital source of support and joy. She invested in friendships that celebrated authenticity, surrounding herself with people who uplifted her and held space for her growth. These connections reinforced her belief that love and belonging were not confined to romantic partnerships, but thrived in diverse forms of human connection. As Emily navigated this renewed chapter, she approached the idea of love with both hope and wisdom. She remained open to the possibility of new relationships, but did so with a grounded understanding of what she deserved. The lessons from her past no longer weighed her down but served as a compass, guiding her toward partners who aligned with her values and respected her boundaries. In her quieter moments, Emily reflected on the transformation she had undergone. The pain that once threatened to consume her had become a catalyst for profound self-discovery. She recognized that healing was not linear but a continuous process of learning, forgiving, and growing. This acceptance brought a sense of peace that had eluded her in the early days of heartbreak. Emily's journey also deepened her compassion, both for herself and for others navigating similar struggles. She found herself more patient and understanding, recognizing the complexities of human emotions and the courage required to face them. This empathy enriched her relationships, allowing her to connect with others from a place of sincerity and grace. With each step forward, Emily reaffirmed her commitment to self-love and respect. She understood that the foundation of any meaningful connection was a strong relationship with oneself. By honoring her needs and values, she created space for love that was not only fulfilling but also sustainable. The city skyline outside her window shimmered with possibility, mirroring the hope that now illuminated Emily's path. She embraced the future with open arms, ready to write the next chapters of her life with intention and heart. The journey had taught her that true love was not about perfection or avoidance of pain, but about the courage to be vulnerable and the wisdom to protect one's soul. In choosing to move forward with resilience and authenticity, Emily discovered a freedom that transcended past wounds. She no longer sought validation in empty promises but found strength in her own truth. This empowerment became the wellspring from which all her relationships flowed, infusing them with depth, trust, and genuine connection. As Emily continued to pursue her passions and nurture her friendships, she carried with her the invaluable lessons of her journey. The experience had shaped her into a woman who understood that love was a delicate balance of patience, respect, and courage. It was a balance she was now prepared to embrace fully, confident in the knowledge that her heart was worthy of the love she sought. In this new chapter, Emily's life was a testament to the power of healing and growth. The vulnerability she once feared had become a source of strength, and the boundaries she set were expressions of self-love. With a heart open yet guarded, she stepped forward into the future, ready to meet whatever came with grace and unwavering integrity. If you loved the story, like the video and subscribe.